Hey guys, tonight we explore a world remade in an instant, a planet where the very concept of distance has been erased from existence. Imagine waking up one morning to find that Paris is as close as your kitchen, that the peak of Everest is just a thought away, and that the comforting weight of your blanket is the only thing keeping you from the silent, sunless bottom of the Mariana Trench. It's a world of infinite possibility and overwhelming choice, a reality where you can have breakfast on a beach in Bali, pop over to the Louvre for a quick glance at the Mona Lisa, and still be back on your couch before your coffee gets cold. Let's be honest, in the real version of this event, you probably wouldn't survive the initial shock, let alone the complete and utter breakdown of social order that would follow. You'd be lucky to avoid being teleported into a wall by a toddler who just discovered their new favorite game. But this is our story, a gentler journey of the mind. Before we begin, if you'd like to join me on more journeys like this one, consider hitting like and subscribe. It helps our community find more fellow travelers with the same curiosity. We love seeing where everyone is listening from, so feel free to post your city or country and the local time in the comments below. Now find a comfortable position, take a deep breath in and a slow breath out. Let's allow the noise of the outside world to fade away as we begin our adventure of the mind. It begins, as most world-altering events do, with a profound and unsettling silence. You drift up from a deep sleep, pulled towards consciousness, not by an alarm or the familiar rumble of the morning's first garbage truck, but by the utter lack of it. The air in your room feels different, heavier, still. You lie there for a moment, eyes closed, trying to place the wrongness. There are no distant sirens, no hum of traffic on the nearby freeway, no guttural roar of a 747 beginning its descent to the airport 20 miles away. The world outside your window has fallen mute. It's a quiet so deep and pervasive, it feels less like an absence of sound and more like a presence of its own, pressing in on you. You finally open your eyes. The morning light filtering through your blinds looks the same. The digital clock on your nightstand glows with the same familiar red numerals. Everything in your immediate vicinity is exactly as it should be, yet the feeling of profound change lingers. You sit up, swinging your legs over the side of the bed. The floor is cool beneath your feet. The house is quiet, but that's normal. What isn't normal is the dead stillness from beyond the walls. You pad over to the window and pull back the curtains, expecting to see, well, you're not sure what. An empty street, perhaps. What you see is perfectly ordinary. Cars are parked in their usual spots. Your neighbor's sprinkler is valiantly watering more concrete than grass, same as every Tuesday. But nothing is moving. Not a single car, not a single cyclist, not a single person walking their dog. You grab your phone from the nightstand. There's a single notification on the screen, an emergency alert pushed to every device on the planet simultaneously. It's not from a government or a news agency. The sender is listed only as the network. The message itself is simple, almost comically understated for the reality it describes. Transportation is now an intrinsic function. Think of a place. You will be there. The service is stable, permanent, and free for all. You read it twice, 3 times. It has to be a joke, a prank, a very elaborate and well-coordinated marketing stunt for some new sci-fi movie. You toss the phone onto your bed and head to the kitchen to start your coffee, a cynical smile on your face. Intrinsic function, you mutter. Right. The world has clearly gone insane. But as the coffee maker sputters to life, the silence outside continues to roar. You turn on the television, flipping to a news channel. A normally unflappable news anchor is staring into the camera, her expression a mixture of awe and terror. Behind her, the screen shows a live feed of Times Square, completely devoid of its iconic yellow cabs and seas of tourists. It's just people, thousands of them, standing still, looking up at the sky or down at their phones, their faces painted with the same disbelief you feel. Then, a person on the screen vanishes. They don't walk away. They just cease to be there. A moment later, another person blips out of existence. Then a small group. It's happening all over the square. No flash of light, no puff of smoke like in a magic trick. Just a seamless, instantaneous deletion. And just as quickly, new people appear, popping into existence in the empty spaces. One moment, a patch of pavement is empty. The next, a man in a Tokyo Giants baseball cap is standing there, looking around in bewildered wonder. Your heart starts to pound. This is real. It's happening. The message on your phone wasn't a prank. You look from the television to the coffee pot, then to the window. The world you knew, the one defined by A to B, by hours spent in traffic and dollars spent on fuel, is gone. Scientists will later argue, and will likely continue to argue for centuries, whether this new ability was a sudden leap in human evolution, a benevolent gift from some unseen intelligence, or the activation of a sophisticated invisible technology that had always been there, latent within the fabric of space-time itself. But in this moment, all you know is that the fundamental rules of existence have been rewritten while you slept. A strange thought pops into your head, a memory of a documentary you once saw. It mentioned that over 1% of the entire landmass of the United States is paved over for roads, parking lots, and airports. An enormous amount of space dedicated to the simple, tedious act of moving bodies and objects from one place to another. All of that space is now, what? A relic? A monument to a forgotten problem? You think about your office 26 miles away, an hour-long commute on a good day, a soul-crushing 90 minutes on a bad one. You picture the drab gray cubicle waiting for you. You imagine the stale office air, the flickering fluorescent lights. And then you think of the door to your office building. You picture the revolving glass door, the security guard who always nods at you, the ficus plant in the corner that's been dying a slow death for 5 years. You focus on that spot right in front of the plant. For a terrifying split second, you feel a sensation that is utterly alien. It's not movement. It's a replacement, a substitution, a feeling of your entire being, every atom and every electron being simultaneously in one place and then instantly in another. There is a faint internal lurch, like the world's gentlest roller coaster drop that happens inside your own mind. You blink. The smell of your brewing coffee is gone. The warm, familiar air of your kitchen has been replaced by the cool, conditioned air of your office lobby. You are standing right in front of the dying ficus. The security guard is 10 feet away, staring at the spot you just materialized in, his mouth hanging open. You look down at yourself. You're still in your pajamas, a faded t-shirt and plaid pants. One of your feet is bare. You left a slipper behind. This is a quirky little tidbit that people would soon discover. The system, whatever it was surprisingly literal. If you didn't consciously include an object in your mental manifest, it sometimes got left behind. Early on, it led to a global epidemic of lost socks and misplaced keys. Some called it the Great Cosmic Luggage Fee. It was humanity's first and funniest lesson in the new rules of reality. You're here, but you are just there. And the only thing that separates the two is a single, focused thought. The security guard, a man whose entire professional life has been dedicated to observing people moving at predictable speeds through a designated entrance, simply continues to stare. His brain, like yours, is struggling to catch up with a reality that has just done a triple axel jump over the laws of physics. You give him a weak, apologetic smile, a gesture that feels entirely inadequate for the situation. Then, remembering the sensation, the internal lurch, you think of home. Specifically, you picture the exact spot in your kitchen where you were standing just moments ago, right in front of the gurgling coffee maker. You remember to include your whole self this time, pajamas, barefoot, and all. Lurch, you're back. The warm, coffee-scented air of your kitchen wraps around you like a familiar blanket. You look down. The single slipper is still there on the floor where you left it. You put it on. The TV is still showing scenes of quiet chaos from around the globe. People popping in and out of existence like human-shaped bubbles. Some are laughing, some are crying, others are just standing still, as if waiting for someone to announce that it's all been a colossal mistake and the old, slow world will be rebooting shortly. But it won't. You know that now. This is it. This is the new normal. The coffee maker finishes its cycle with a final, pathetic little gasp. You pour a mug, but the thought of it seems mundane, anticlimactic. Your 26-mile commute in pajamas and back. Again, adventure has made you realize something profound. Why drink this coffee from this machine in this kitchen when you could be drinking any coffee anywhere? An idea, ludicrous and wonderful, sparks in your mind. There's a small cafe you love downtown, the Daily Grind. It's on a beautiful, tree-lined street, and they make a latte that has single-handedly gotten you through some of your worst Mondays. The only problem is that it's a 40-minute drive away, with terrible parking. It's a special occasion coffee, a weekend treat. But it's Tuesday, and 40 minutes away is a concept that no longer has any meaning. You put your mug of perfectly adequate, yet suddenly unacceptable coffee in the sink. You go to your bedroom and get dressed, not in office clothes, but in your comfortable, casual, going to a cafe on a whim clothes. As you do, you think about the implications. This isn't just about coffee, it's about everything. Lunch in Rome, a walk on the Great Wall of China after work? Why not? The only cost is a moment of concentration. You stand in the middle of your living room, take a deep breath, and close your eyes. You picture the Daily Grind. Not just the building, but the specific, slightly wobbly two-person table in the front window. You picture the worn wood of the tabletop, the little glass jar of sugar packets, the view of the oak tree on the sidewalk outside. You remember the friendly barista with the elaborate tattoos and the perpetually unimpressed expression. You build the entire scene in your mind, trying to make it as real and detailed as possible. You remember the lesson of the slipper. You consciously include your wallet, your keys, your phone. Ready? Lurch. The transition is just as jarring as the first time, but you're half expecting it now. One moment, you're in the silent, solitary space of your home. The next, you're assaulted by a symphony of new sensations. The rich, overwhelming smell of roasting coffee beans and steamed milk. The hiss and clank of the espresso machine. The low murmur of a dozen conversations. The gentle melody of some indie folk band playing over the speakers. You've arrived. You open your eyes. You're standing right next to the wobbly table in the window. You didn't quite nail the landing, appearing a good 2 feet to the left of the chair you were aiming for, causing a woman reading a book to yelp in surprise. Sorry, you mumble, your face flushing. She just shakes her head, a weary smile on her face. Don't worry, she says. Happens to everyone. I tried to pop over to my sister's in Seattle this morning and landed in her koi pond. This, you realize, is the new shared human experience, the slight embarrassment of a poorly aimed teleport. A quirky tidbit of this new life is the emerging skill of spatial accuracy. People are quickly learning that a vague idea of a place gets you in the general vicinity, but to arrive in a specific chair, you need to focus. The tattooed barista looks up as you approach the counter. He doesn't even blink. His unimpressed expression has finally found its perfect context. Where from? He asks, his tone suggesting he's been asking this question all morning. Just my living room, about 15 miles away, you reply. Cute, he says, without a hint of sarcasm. The guy before you came from a research station in Antarctica. Said he was tired of the instant stuff. What can I get you? You order your favorite latte, the one that used to be a rare treat. As you pay, you realize that the global economy, the intricate dance of supply and demand, has been fundamentally broken. Coffee is famously the second most traded commodity on Earth after petroleum. An entire industry of growers, shippers, processors, and distributors exist to move these little beans from equatorial farms to your local cafe. Now, a farmer in Colombia could, in theory, open a shop and sell directly to a customer in Norway, instantly. The implications are staggering, and your brain is too busy processing the immediate miracle to fully grasp the long-term chaos. You take your latte, the best you've ever tasted, and sit at your wobbly table. People watching has become an extreme sport. A man in a business suit flickers into existence near the door, looks around, and vanishes again. A trio of teenagers, giddy with their newfound freedom, appear in a giggling heap near the pastry case, decide they want donuts instead, and disappear. Psychologists are already coining new terms for the mental effects of this, with phrases like destination whiplash and perceptual dissonance being thrown around. There is a genuine open scholarly debate about whether the human brain evolved over millennia to process movement and distance in a linear fashion, can truly adapt to this instantaneous, frictionless existence without long-term psychological side effects. Sipping your coffee, you look out the window at the familiar street. The world looks the same, but it isn't. It's a phantom limb. The roads are still there. The cars are still parked. The traffic lights are still cycling from green to yellow to red, but they are all monuments to a bygone era. They are artifacts. The age of travel is over. The age of arrival has begun. You finish your coffee, the warmth spreading through you. The once impossible Tuesday morning treat is now just a thing you can do. The world has compressed to the size of your imagination. Are you still with me? Good, because the world is about to get much, much bigger. What do you do next? Where do you go when the answer is anywhere at all? The last sip of your perfect latte is gone. The cup is empty. The thrill of your successful crosstown jump is fading, replaced by a new, more profound curiosity. You've seen how this changes a morning routine, but what does it do to a life? What does it do to a society? The barista is now explaining to a woman in a full scuba suit that yes, she still has to pay for her macchiato, even if she just came from the Great Barrier Reef. It seems the rules of commerce, for now, are stubbornly holding on. You leave a tip on the table and decide it's time to see the bigger picture. You need to see a city, not just a quiet street, but the very heart of one. You think of New York, specifically the view from the top of the Empire State Building, a place you've only seen in movies, a place that represents the pinnacle of urban ambition. You focus, picture the observation deck, the feel of the cool metal railings, the wind whipping past you. You remember to bring your jacket this time. Lurch. The sensory shift is immense. The cozy cafe sounds are replaced by the high, thin whistle of the wind. The air is cold, biting at your exposed skin. You open your eyes and gasp. It's not the height that shocks you, but the view. The city, the legendary, sleepless metropolis, is quiet. From this vantage point, you can see it all. The rivers of yellow cabs are gone. The streets, usually choked with a constant flow of traffic, are still and empty. The endless drone of engines, horns, and sirens that forms the very soul of New York has vanished. Here and there, you see clusters of people on the streets below, but they look like tiny, static dolls. And then you see it happening, the same phenomenon from the news, but on a vast, citywide scale. The flicker. People are vanishing from rooftops, from parks, from street corners. The city is emptying itself out, person by person. The whole reason cities exist, the entire principle of urbanization that has guided human civilization for thousands of years, was proximity. People huddled together for safety, for commerce, for opportunity. Your job was in the city, so you lived in or near the city. The best restaurants, theaters, and museums were in the city, so you traveled there. For centuries, the most valuable commodity in the world was land, and its value was dictated by three simple words: location, location, location. A tiny apartment in the heart of a major city could cost more than a sprawling mansion 100 miles away. This single, unshakable truth governed economies and shaped lives. And today, in a single morning, that truth has become a joke. Why would you pay a fortune to live in a cramped box in the sky when your office is now just a thought away? Why endure the noise and the crowds when you can access all the benefits of the city, the art, the food, the work, from a place that is quiet, beautiful, and serene? The answer is, you wouldn't, and neither would anyone else. The great urban exodus has begun. You decide to follow the tide, to see where the river of humanity is flowing. You close your eyes again, and this time, you don't think of a man-made structure. You think of a place you've only seen on a screensaver. A beach, white sand, impossibly clear turquoise water, a gentle shore in the Maldives. Lurch. You land softly, your shoes sinking slightly into fine, warm sand. The air is thick, humid, and salty. The sun is brilliant, and you are not alone. All along the crescent of the beach, as far as you can see, are people. It's not crowded like a public beach on a holiday weekend. It's settled. A family is having a picnic on a blanket that looks suspiciously like it belongs in a suburban living room. A young man sits on a driftwood log, his laptop open, typing away. He's at work. Here. Further down, a woman has set up an easel and is painting the horizon. They are the refugees from the sky-high rents and the concrete canyons. They are the new pioneers, colonizing paradise. You start to walk along the shoreline, the water lapping gently at your feet. You overhear snippets of conversation. People are talking about their base and their views. This is the start of a strange and quirky new trend that sociologists will later call distributed living. People are keeping their old apartments in the city, but not to live in. They are now glorified closets, functional arrival points for work or social events. You might pop into your old shoebox in London to appear at the office, but your actual home, your bedroom, your kitchen, your life is now split between a cabin in the Rocky Mountains and a small villa in Tuscany. It's creating a logistical nightmare for anyone trying to take a census, but a utopian dream for millions. One man you pass is on his phone, laughing. No, he says. The living room is in Patagonia. I'm calling you from the kitchen, which I set up on a nice little cliff in Ireland. I'll be in the Tokyo office in 5 if you want to grab a drink. It's hilarious, and it's brilliant. The city is no longer a place you live. It's a place you visit, an enormous shared community center. Urban planners and social scientists are already engaged in a fierce, open debate about what this means. Is this the death of the city, or its rebirth as something new? A non-residential hub for culture, work, and specialized services, run by a skeleton crew of people who genuinely love the urban environment, while the rest of humanity spreads out across the globe's most beautiful and once remote locations. You find a quiet spot for yourself under a palm tree. The old world was defined by its centers, its dense hubs of power and population. The new world is defined by its edges. The map of human civilization is being redrawn, not by governments or grand plans, but by the simple collective desire for a nicer view. You could get used to this. You watch as a young couple appears nearby, the man still holding a remote control, the woman holding a bowl of popcorn. They've decided to watch their evening movie here, on a beach in the Maldives, instead of on their couch in Ohio. It's a date night that would have once cost a fortune and a week of travel, now achieved in the time it takes to have a thought. Are you getting comfortable? Good. Settle in. Because as you sit there on the warm sand, you start to wonder about the people you're sharing this paradise with. What happens when the whole world becomes one big neighborhood? You sit under your palm tree on the Maldivian sand, a silent observer of the New World Order. The couple with the popcorn and the remote control have settled in, their faces illuminated by the glow of a movie only they can see. It's a strange and beautiful thing. The concept of a global village, a term coined by a media theorist back in the 1960s, was supposed to be a metaphor for how television and radio were shrinking the world. He never could have imagined this. He was thinking figuratively. Reality, it turns out, has a flair for the literal. The world is now not just a village, but a single, sprawling living room. As the sun begins to dip lower, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink, something incredible starts to happen. A man who by his accent you'd place somewhere in the Australian outback appears with a small portable grill and a cooler. He sets it up a respectable distance from everyone else, and the smell of sizzling sausages soon wafts down the beach. A few minutes later, a woman in a colorful sari materializes nearby, holding a large bowl of what looks like a delicious biryani. She smiles at the man with the grill, who gives her a friendly nod. They don't speak the same language, but the sentiment is clear. I'm here. You're here. This is nice, isn't it? This is the spark. The idea is contagious. You watch as a young man who had been skipping stones on the water suddenly vanishes, only to reappear a moment later with a guitar. He finds a spot, sits, and begins to play a soft, gentle melody. It becomes a catalyst. Someone else pops in with a bag of charcoal for the grill. A family from somewhere cold, judging by their pale skin and the heavy sweaters they're still wearing, arrives with a stack of foldable chairs. This is no longer a random collection of individuals. It's a gathering, a spontaneous, unplanned global neighborhood barbecue, and you want to be a part of it. The old you, the you from yesterday morning, would have felt shy, would have kept to yourself. But something about this new reality is different. The shared absurdity of it all is a powerful social lubricant. You decide to contribute. You think of your kitchen, the one you were in just this morning a lifetime ago. You picture the refrigerator, lurch. Your home. It's jarring to be back in the familiar, quiet space. Your house feels like a base, a private anchor in a world of infinite destinations. You grab a case of beer from the fridge and a couple of bags of chips from the pantry. It feels comically inadequate, bringing gas station snacks to an international feast, but it's the spirit of the thing that counts. You focus again on that spot on the beach, on the sound of the gentle waves and the soft guitar music. Lurch. You're back. The sun is even lower now, casting long shadows on the sand. The party has grown. There are dozens of people now. A group of friends from Mexico have brought fresh guacamole and tortillas. An elderly man from Japan is meticulously slicing sashimi on a wooden board, which he apparently just brought from his kitchen in Kyoto. You see a woman from Ethiopia laying out a large, spongy flatbread, injera, surrounded by colorful stews. It's a potluck on a scale that has never been possible in human history. You walk over and offer the beers to the Australian man at the grill, who gratefully accepts one with a wide grin. Cheers, mate, he says. You wander over to the circle of people listening to the guitarist and sit down, placing the chips on the sand for anyone to share. A new social etiquette is already forming, a quirky but necessary set of rules for this new age. You learn quickly that it's considered rude to materialize directly inside an existing group. The polite thing to do is to aim for a clear spot nearby, catch someone's eye, and then approach, giving people a moment to register your presence. It's the new version of knocking on a door, a small ritual to avoid startling people, or heaven forbid, landing on their potato salad. You strike up a conversation with the person next to you, a woman from Nairobi. You don't share a language, but you both have translation apps on your phones. You speak into your phone, and it repeats your words in Swahili. She replies in her own language, and your phone speaks her answer back to you in English. The conversation is slow, slightly stilted, but it's genuine. You learn she's a software developer. You tell her you work in marketing. You both agree that your jobs have gotten significantly weirder in the last 12 hours. It's a connection that would have been impossible yesterday. Anthropologists and sociologists, those who haven't simply abandoned their desks to go live on a mountaintop somewhere, are already fiercely debating the outcome of all this. Will this unprecedented level of cultural blending lead to a beautiful, homogeneous global culture, a single human identity? Or will it paradoxically cause people to cling even more tightly to their local traditions as a way of standing out in the global crowd? No one knows. You are on the front lines of the greatest social experiment in history. You spend the next hour walking around this incredible, impromptu community. You try a piece of grilled Argentinian steak, so tender it melts in your mouth. You sample a spicy noodle dish a student from Bangkok brought over. You share a laugh with a man from Germany who is trying to explain the rules of a complex card game to a family from Brazil. There are no passports here, no borders, no customs agents, just people sharing food and music as the last sliver of the sun disappears below the horizon, leaving behind a sky filled with more stars than you've ever seen. The old divisions of nationality and distance feel like a distant dream, a story you'd tell your grandchildren. A long time ago, you'd say, we were all stuck in different places, and they would look at you with confusion, unable to even imagine such a strange and limiting world. As the bonfire crackles and the conversations hum around you, are you feeling that sense of connection? The dissolving of walls, both real and imagined? Rest in that thought for a moment. The world has become one, but that unity is about to create problems no one could have foreseen. The bonfire on the beach in the Maldives crackles, a warm, bright spot against the immense darkness of the sea and sky. The global potluck is winding down. The guitarist has switched to quieter, more contemplative melodies. The conversations around you have softened to a gentle murmur. There's a feeling of sleepy contentment, a shared sense of wonder. You look at the remains of the feast spread across various blankets. A half-eaten bowl of guacamole, a few lonely pieces of grilled sausage, the last of the Japanese sashimi. And a thought strikes you, a practical, nagging question that cuts through the magical haze. The people came from all over the world, that much you understand. But what about the things? What about this specific delicious steak from Argentina? What about the avocados in that guacamole, grown in Mexico? In the world that existed yesterday, the journey of a single avocado from a tree in Michoacan to a bowl on a beach in the Maldives was a minor miracle of logistics. It would have been picked, packed, loaded onto a truck, driven to a port, loaded onto a refrigerated container ship, sailed across oceans, unloaded, driven by another truck to a distribution center, then a store, then bought by someone, flown in their luggage, an incredibly long and complex chain of movement. Now that chain has simply vanished. Curiosity pulls at you again. You want to see the other side of this new reality. Not the destinations, but the machinery of the journey itself, now frozen in time. You think of one of the titans of the old world's economy, a massive container port. A place like the port of Singapore, a sprawling city of cranes and steel boxes, the very heart of global trade. You picture the endless stacks of colorful containers, the towering gantry cranes, the vast concrete aprons. You feel a quiet flicker of dislocation, a seamless substitution of one reality for another. The warm, salty air of the beach is gone, replaced by a cool, metallic tang and the faint smell of diesel fuel and stagnant water. You open your eyes. You are standing on a pier, and the silence is more deafening than the quiet of your own street this morning. Before you, a colossal container ship, thousands of feet long and piled high with steel boxes, sits motionless in the water. Its engines are silent. A row of giant cranes, like skeletal dinosaurs, loom over it, their arms poised to lift containers that will never be moved again. The entire port, a place that should be a whirlwind of 24/7 activity, trucks, ships, trains, thousands of workers, is a ghost town. It's a museum exhibit documenting the end of an era. The global shipping industry was the invisible circulatory system of the old world. A staggering 90% of everything you owned, from your clothes to your phone to the food you ate, traveled on a ship like this one. An entire global economy with a value in the trillions of dollars was built on the simple business of moving things. That entire economy and every job within it became redundant between one sunrise and the next. The truck drivers, the pilots, the ship captains, the warehouse stockers, the crane operators, the railroad engineers, their professions, their skills, their livelihoods, all rendered obsolete in an instant. It's a collapse so vast and so sudden, it's hard to comprehend. Imagine if the invention of the car had happened everywhere, all at once, for free. Now multiply that by 1,000. But as you stand there in the eerie silence of the dead port, you realize that destruction is only half the story. The economy isn't gone, it has simply transformed. A strange new form of wealth is being born from the ashes of the old one. When the cost and difficulty of moving an object drops to zero, the value is no longer in the object's location. The value is in the object itself, and more importantly, in the knowledge of that object. Think of the barista in that coffee shop. In the old world, he was a service worker. In this new world, he's a curator. His value isn't just in his ability to steam milk. It's in his knowledge of which small, family-run farm in the mountains of Ethiopia grows the most incredible coffee beans. He doesn't need a supply chain. He just needs to know the farmer's name. A new class of powerful and wealthy individuals is emerging. The tastemakers, the curators, the authenticators. The woman who knows the best tailor in Naples, the man who can identify the most skilled woodworker in Vietnam, the tech geek who knows which small lab in Korea is producing the most innovative new microchip. These people are the new gatekeepers of commerce. They trade in knowledge, not goods. This shift is giving economists and theorists a collective migraine. They are furiously debating what to even call this new system. It isn't capitalism as they knew it. It isn't socialism. Some are calling it a curation economy, while others prefer gnosis-based commerce, an economy based on knowledge. Value has shifted from the physical to the informational. The richest person in the world is no longer the one who owns the most ships or factories, but the one with the most reliable list of the best things. It's a tough day for anyone who majored in logistics, but a great day for hobbyists and connoisseurs. You look at the silent, rusting cranes and the millions of tons of cargo going nowhere. All that stuff, the cheap plastic toys, the fast fashion clothing, the mass-produced electronics, is now effectively worthless. Why would you want a generic, mass-produced table when you can, with a thought, acquire one made by a master craftsman whose family has been perfecting their art for generations? The world of stuff is being replaced by a world of quality. The age of the middleman is over. You're witnessing the single greatest economic disruption in human history. It's not just a market crash, it's a complete rewriting of the rules of value. As you stand there, does the sheer scale of it make you feel small? Or does the possibility of a world built on quality over quantity give you a sense of hope? Savor that feeling, because the frictionless movement of goods is about to have an even more profound effect than just bankrupting a few billionaires. You turn your back on the silent, monolithic cranes of the port, the cold monuments to a dead economy. The thought of the new curation economy is fascinating, a world where taste and knowledge are the ultimate currency. But as the image of the global potluck on the beach returns to you, another, more powerful idea begins to form. The feast wasn't just about accessing exotic luxuries like Argentinian steak or Japanese sashimi. It was about the simple, profound act of sharing abundance. If a perfectly crafted cup of coffee can be summoned from across town, and a handmade Italian briefcase can be acquired from a workshop an ocean away, then what about the things people truly need? What about a bag of grain, a canister of fresh water, a dose of life-saving medicine? For all of human history, our greatest struggles have been against scarcity. The fight for food, water, and resources has been the engine of war, of empire, of suffering, and much of that scarcity wasn't due to a global lack, but to the tyranny of distance, the friction of logistics. You remember reading a staggering fact once. In the old world, humanity produced more than enough food to feed every single person on the planet, yet nearly a third of it was lost or wasted. It rotted in fields, spoiled in transit, or sat on shelves in one country while people starved in another. The problem wasn't production, it was distribution. And that problem has just been solved. You decide you need to see it for yourself. You try to picture a place that has for generations been the face of hardship. A village in a drought-stricken region of the Sahel on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. A place where the sun is a relentless enemy and water is more precious than gold. You don't picture the suffering you've seen in documentaries. You simply picture the place itself. The dry, cracked earth, the acacia trees, the vast, unforgiving sky. There is a quiet dissolving of your surroundings. The cool, damp air of the port gives way to an immediate, intense, dry heat. The smell is of dust and sun-baked earth. You open your eyes, and the scene before you is not one of desperation, but of a quiet, ongoing miracle. There are no aid trucks, no helicopters, no beleaguered relief workers, yet the aid is everywhere. Neatly stacked sacks of rice, flour, and beans are appearing in organized piles. Crates of medicine and nutritional supplements are materializing beside them. Most incredibly, large, sealed containers of fresh, clean water are popping into existence, cool condensation forming on their sides in the hot air. People from the nearby village are moving with a calm, purposeful energy. There is no panic, no fighting. The desperate, clawing fear that comes from scarcity is gone because the scarcity itself is gone. A mother picks up a sack of grain and a container of water, gives a nod to the empty spot where it appeared as if thanking a ghost, and walks back toward her home. The supply is endless. The moment a pile gets low, new items simply fade into view to replenish it. This is happening all over the world. A strange, wonderful phenomenon has begun, something the new global chatter is calling the Great Global Spring Clean. People are clearing out their homes, their attics, their garages. That old winter coat you haven't worn in years? You picture a community drop point that has sprung up in a cold mountain village in the Andes, and with a moment's focus, your coat is no longer in your closet. It's there, ready for someone who needs it. That set of tools you bought for a single project and never touched again, it appears in a shared workshop in a developing nation. Old toys, furniture, books, electronics, billions of items, once destined to gather dust or fill a landfill, are now flowing in a frictionless, silent tide from the places of excess to the places of need. It's the greatest act of charity in history, and it requires almost no effort at all. This, of course, is giving philosophers a headache. There is now a very serious and open debate among ethicists about the nature of altruism. Is an act truly good if it is effortless? Does charity count when it costs the giver nothing, not even the time it takes to drive to a donation center? You want to see another piece of this puzzle. You think of a small, underfunded medical clinic in a remote part of the Amazon rainforest you once read about. A place where doctors had to perform miracles with minimal supplies. A flicker, and you are there. The air is now thick, humid, and alive with the sounds of the jungle. You find yourself in the small, clean hallway of the clinic, but it is not the place from the article. The shelves are fully stocked with medicines of every kind. In an operating room, a surgeon is performing a complex procedure. Next to her, on a tray, a highly specialized surgical instrument appears as if from nowhere. Her team doesn't even flinch. She had requested it from a colleague in Zurich just seconds ago. The patient on the table has access to the best medical hardware in the world, delivered instantly. The concept of a remote or underserved hospital has ceased to exist. Every medical facility now has the same potential access to the same global supply of resources. You realize you are witnessing the end of involuntary poverty. The brutalities that arose from geographic bad luck, famine, drought, lack of medical care, have been largely erased. Humanity still has its problems, of course. This hasn't cured disease or erased hatred or fixed a broken heart. But it has, in a single day, put a floor under human suffering. The basic needs for survival are no longer part of the fight. Does this thought calm you? The idea of a world where no one starves, where no one dies of thirst, where no one suffers from a lack of simple, available medicine. Let that peace settle over you. A world so without want. But a world without want is also a world without borders, and that is about to create a whole new kind of trouble. You stand in the hallway of the Amazonian clinic, a place where geography is no longer a barrier to survival. The thought echoes in your mind. If a medical instrument can instantly cross the border between Switzerland and Brazil, what does that mean for people? The end of scarcity for goods was the first, most obvious consequence of this new reality. The second you realize is the end of scarcity for location, the ultimate freedom of movement. And what is a nation if not a group of people in a specific location defined by borders they control? The entire concept of a country, you realize, is predicated on the ability to say who can and cannot enter. This control was the bedrock of national sovereignty, of politics, of identity. You decide to go to a place that was once the ultimate symbol of that control, a line on the map made real with concrete and wire. You think of one of the most famous and contentious borders of the old world, a place that was once a flashpoint of political tension. There is a silent shift, a replacement of your surroundings. The humid, living air of the jungle evaporates, replaced by a dry, open sky breeze. You're standing on a dusty road next to a high fence topped with barbed wire. Guard towers stand empty against the sky, their paint peeling, their windows like vacant eyes. This barrier, once a nearly impassable obstacle that shaped the lives of millions, is now nothing more than a bizarre, rusting piece of public art. On both sides of the fence, people are milling about. A family has laid out a picnic blanket, with half of it on the domestic side and half on the foreign side. Children are laughing, chasing each other, flickering out of existence on one side of the fence, only to reappear on the other in a game of transnational tag. The imposing gates where armed guards once scrutinized documents with intimidating glares are wide open and silent. No one is using them. Why would you walk through a gate when you can simply appear past it? You reach into your pocket and pull out your wallet, finding your passport inside. You flip through the pages, looking at the faded ink of old visa stamps. Each stamp was a record of a journey, a transaction of permission, a testament to the power of the state to control its territory. The primary function of this little booklet was to prove your identity to an official who could then grant or deny you entry. It was a key. But what is a key when there are no longer any doors? You are holding a relic, a historical artifact as obsolete as a chariot wheel. A quirky new hobby is cropping up but all over the world. Border spotting. People are making a game of visiting these defunct checkpoints. They treat them like national parks or historical monuments. They pose for photos under the empty guard towers and have lunch on the demarcation lines painted on the asphalt. It's a peaceful, slightly surreal way of appreciating just how much the world has changed. The lines that men drew on maps and fought and died over for centuries have been erased not by treaty or by war, but by a simple universal upgrade to the physics of being human. The implications are overwhelming. A nation-state traditionally holds two fundamental powers: control over its economy through trade and tariffs, and control over its people through borders and immigration laws. The frictionless movement of goods, as you saw at the port, destroyed the first power. Now the frictionless movement of people has erased the second. How can you have an immigration policy when there is no immigration process? How can you tax your citizens when they can choose to live on a beach in Thailand, work for a company based in Germany, and keep their money in a bank that only exists as data on a server in Iceland? Political scientists and heads of state are in a state of global panic. The entire framework of international relations is dissolving. There is a frantic, open debate happening in the halls of power, or what's left of them. Does this spell the end of countries, or will they be forced to evolve into something new, perhaps voluntary associations, cultural clubs you choose to belong to based on shared language or values rather than place of birth. You might be a citizen of the Republic of Science Fiction Fans or the Federation of Cat Lovers, with your allegiance having nothing to do with lines on a map. The old reasons for national pride and conflict are evaporating. When everyone is part of the same global village, sharing the same resources, the us versus them mentality that fueled so much of history begins to feel absurd. Why would you fight for a patch of land when you can have your breakfast in that land, your lunch in another, and your dinner in a third? You see a young man nonchalantly hop over a low concrete barrier that once represented a stark ideological divide just to ask another man for a light. It's a small, simple interaction that would have been impossible, even deadly, just a day ago. The great, serious, and often tragic drama of geopolitics has been turned into a farce. You look at the children playing their teleporting game of tag across the useless border. They will grow up in a world where the idea of being from one single country will seem as strange as being from only one house. Their identity will not be national, but global. They are the first generation of true Earthlings. Is your mind feeling a little lighter, letting go of those old lines on the map? Relax into that feeling of unity. A planet without borders is also a planet without highways, without runways, without the constant rumble of engines. And the Earth itself is starting to notice. You watch the children weave back and forth across the meaningless line on the ground, their laughter echoing in the quiet air of the abandoned border crossing. The dissolution of nations feels like a weight being lifted from the world's shoulders. The constant tension, the posturing, the threat of conflict, it's all evaporating into this new, strange, and peaceful reality. And as you stand there, you become aware of a deeper quiet, a silence that goes beyond the absence of political squabbling. It's the silence you first noticed when you woke up. The silence you witnessed in the heart of New York City and at the colossal shipping port. It's the sound of the world's engines turning off all at once. For the last century and a half, humanity has filled the air with a constant, globe-spanning roar. The rumble of cars, the drone of trucks, the scream of jets, the churning of massive ships. This ceaseless noise was the soundtrack to our civilization. It was the sound of our ambition, our economy, our relentless movement. Now it's gone, and the planet itself is starting to respond to the silence. You decide to witness this change from a place that was once the very epicenter of noise and pollution. You think of a massive freeway interchange, a tangled knot of concrete and asphalt where 8 lanes of traffic in multiple directions once converged in a perpetual state of controlled chaos. A place of stress, exhaust fumes, and endless grinding noise. A gentle sense of replacement, and you are there. You're standing on the crumbling shoulder of a sweeping overpass. The scale of the structure is immense, a river of concrete flowing through a valley of scrubland. But the river is dry. The freeway is utterly empty. The silence is absolute, broken only by the sound of the wind whistling through the girders of a silent road sign. The air doesn't have that familiar, acrid bite of pollution. It smells clean, earthy. You look up, and the sky seems a deeper, more vibrant blue than you remember. It's not your imagination. The global transportation sector in the Old World was responsible for nearly a quarter of all carbon dioxide emissions. In a single day, that planetary fire hose of greenhouse gases has been switched off. You walk out to the center of the 8-lane highway, a place where to stand yesterday would have meant certain death. You run your hand over the rough, sun-warmed asphalt, and there, in a crack near the center line, you see it, a single, defiant green weed pushing its way toward the sun. It's the first pioneer, the first sign of nature's patient, inexorable reclamation. Soon, there will be more. The cracks will widen, soil will accumulate, seeds will find purchase. In a few years, this monument to the automobile will be a long, thin meadow. You want to see another cathedral of the old world, so you think of a major international airport, a place like London Heathrow, once one of the busiest squares on the entire global chessboard. You picture the long, flat expanse of a runway. The flicker of transition is soft, and you find yourself standing on the numbers painted at the end of runway 27L. The silence here is even more profound. Miles of black tarmac stretch out before you, empty and waiting for planes that will never land again. The massive glass terminals, once teeming with millions of anxious travelers, are silent. But here, the reclamation is already more advanced. Tufts of grass are sprouting vigorously in the expansion joints of the concrete. In the distance, near a silent, parked Airbus A380, a family of foxes darts across the taxiway. The vast, long-term parking lots are already beginning to resemble wild grasslands, the tops of cars peeking out like strange metallic boulders. A quirky and beautiful new movement is taking hold, a hobby people are calling ruin gardening. People are intentionally accelerating the planet's recovery. They appear on these empty freeways and overpasses with bags of wildflower seeds, tossing them into the cracks. They are converting abandoned gas stations into micro-wetlands and turning multi-story parking garages into terraced vertical farms. It's a new aesthetic, a partnership with nature to transform the ugly, utilitarian bones of the past into something beautiful. Ecologists and climate scientists are in a state of euphoric shock. Their computer models are struggling to keep up with the rate of change. They are engaged in a hopeful debate about how many decades it will take for the hole in the ozone to close completely, or for the oceans to deacidify. But they all agree on one thing. The Earth has been given a sudden, miraculous chance to heal itself. The patient has thrown away its crutches and is starting to walk on its own again. You think of all the land, all the resources dedicated to the old way, the endless ribbons of road, the sprawling airports, the gas stations, the motels, the repair shops, all of it now obsolete, ready to be absorbed back into the landscape. The only traffic jams left are virtual ones, as thousands of people try to teleport to the exact same spot on a beautiful beach to watch a sunset. It's a much better problem to have. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm golden light over the empty runway, you feel a sense of profound peace. The war is over. Not a war between nations, but the long, grinding war between industrial civilization and the planet that sustained it. The Earth is breathing a deep, slow sigh of relief. Can you feel it too? That gentle planetary exhalation? Let it fill your own lungs as you stand in the quiet twilight of a healing world. But be warned, a quiet world doesn't necessarily mean a safe one. The setting sun casts long, peaceful shadows across the abandoned runway. The quiet of this healing world is a soothing balm, a deep and gentle hum that resonates in your bones. You feel a sense of hope, of tranquility, a world without want, without borders, without pollution. It seems like a utopia, but as you stand there in the deepening twilight, a new, unsettling thought begins to creep into the edges of this perfect picture. This incredible gift, this ability to be anywhere you can imagine, hasn't just been given to you, to the picnickers on the beach, or to the ruin gardeners on the freeways. It's been given to everyone, and not everyone has good intentions. The same ability that allows a doctor to deliver medicine to a remote clinic allows a thief to enter a locked bank vault. The same power that lets a family enjoy a sunset on a Maldivian beach lets an assassin appear, unseen behind a target. The frictionless world you've been exploring has a dark side. The very things that make it a paradise are the same things that could make it a playground for criminals. Your curiosity takes a darker turn. You decide to see how the guardians of the old world are coping with a world where their rulebook has been set on fire. You think of a major city square at night, a place that would normally be monitored, patrolled, maybe the Gendarmenmarkt in Berlin. The transition happens in a blink. You leave the peaceful, grassy runway and arrive in a grand, beautifully illuminated square, framed by the majestic silhouettes of a concert hall and two cathedrals. The air is cool and urban, but something is strange about the law enforcement you see. The police officers aren't patrolling in cars or on foot. They are standing in small, static groups, their faces illuminated by holographic displays that hover in the air before them. They look less like cops and more like data analysts at a standing desk. They aren't looking for trouble. They are sifting through information, looking for anomalies. They are trying to solve an impossible problem. The fundamental tactics of policing for centuries have relied on the control of movement. A crime is committed, and the police set up a perimeter. They create a dragnet. They close off roads, watch airports, and track getaway cars. All of that is now as useless as a screen door on a submarine. The new criminal, the flicker thief, as the media has dubbed them, commits a crime and is gone. Not just gone from the city, but gone from the continent in the space between one heartbeat and the next. There is no chase. There are no tracks. There is no evidence of entry or exit. You watch one of the holographic displays over an officer's shoulder. It's showing security footage from a nearby jewelry store. The footage shows a flawless, priceless diamond necklace, the Star of Dresden, resting on a velvet bust inside a thick glass case. An instant later, in the very next frame of the video, it's simply gone. You see no broken glass, no masked figure, no smoke bomb. It was there, and now it isn't. The crime took, quite literally, no time at all. Breaking and entering is now just appearing and acquiring. The world's fastest heist is now tied with the world's slowest. This has created a desperate technological arms race. The ultra-wealthy and the keepers of national treasures are pouring resources into developing what they call anchor fields, or static rooms. Scientists are still fiercely debating how they even work, but these experimental zones are rumored to create a kind of localized turbulence in the fabric of reality, making teleportation into or out of them impossible. Getting your hands on an anchor generator is the new ultimate status symbol, and building a truly flicker-proof safe is the new holy grail of security engineering. For now, they are rare, buggy, and astronomically expensive. Criminologists and law enforcement strategists are in a state of utter chaos. There's a raging debate in their field. Is traditional, reactive policing officially dead? Many argue that the only way forward is a terrifying new model based on prediction. If you can't catch a criminal after they act, you must find a way to identify them before they commit the crime. This has led to the rise of the police data analysts you see before you, who sift through petabytes of public data, social chatter, and economic activity, looking for the faint ripples of criminal intent. It raises 1,000 ethical questions about privacy and pre-crime, but they see no other choice. It's a cosmic cat and mouse game. You can't chase the person, so you have to learn to chase the thought. The most valuable detective is no longer the grizzled veteran with a keen eye for physical clues, but the psychologist or neurolinguist who can spot the mental signature of a potential flicker thief. It's a bit of a grim joke among the old school cops that the only thing you can't have stolen is something you've hidden so well you've forgotten where it is yourself. You watch the officers in the square, their faces grim with concentration as they stare at their floating screens. They are the new sentinels, standing guard not against physical threats, but against ghosts in the machine. They are trying to police a world where the locks have all melted and the walls have all turned to smoke. Does that thought send a little shiver down your spine? The idea of a world so free that it's also dangerously unprotected? Let that unsettling thought rock you gently. Every perfect system has its shadow, every light its penumbra. Now rest. The challenges of this new world go far beyond cops and robbers, touching the very core of what it means to be human. You turn away from the unsettling scene of the new police force in Berlin, the data ghosts hunting the flicker thieves. The problem of crime in this new world is a dizzying puzzle, but it's an external one. As you stand in the cool night air of the Gendarmenmarkt, a more personal, internal unease begins to surface. It's been growing all day, a quiet hum beneath the wonder and the excitement. It's a feeling of being unmoored, adrift on a sea of infinite possibility. You've been a ghost today, flitting from place to place, continent to continent. The question of how to catch a criminal who can be anywhere is troubling, but it raises a far more fundamental question. What does it mean to be a person who can be anywhere? You need to think. You need a place with no distractions, no people, no history, a blank slate. You think of the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, a vast, sterile expanse of white under a giant sky, a place that is barely a place at all, a quiet substitution of reality, and you are there. The sensory shift is one of erasure. The city sounds, the cool air, the architectural grandeur, it all vanishes. It's replaced by an almost total silence, a vast, deep quiet that makes the silence of the abandoned airport seem noisy. The air is still and dry. Under your feet, the salt crust makes a soft, crunching sound. You are standing in an ocean of white that stretches to a perfectly flat horizon in every direction. There are no landmarks, no trees, no buildings, no points of reference. You are in the middle of nowhere, and for the first time, it feels like you've finally found a location that matches the feeling in your soul. This is the psychology of placelessness. For all of human existence, our identities have been intrinsically linked to our locations. Our sense of self was anchored to a place. Your hometown, your neighborhood, your house, your room. These were the containers that gave your life shape and context. Psychologists have long known that routines and a stable environment are fundamental to mental health. They provide the solid ground upon which we build our sense of who we are. Now that ground has turned to mist. You think back on your day. You woke up in your bed. You had a brief, confusing trip to your office lobby. You had coffee in a downtown cafe. You visited the top of the Empire State Building. You sat on a beach in the Maldives and attended a global potluck. You stood in a silent port in Singapore, a clinic in the Amazon, a defunct border in Europe, and on an empty runway. Your body has been ricocheting around the planet, but your mind, your poor, slow, ape-descended mind, has been struggling to keep up. It's a new kind of exhaustion, a psychic jet lag from a journey with no duration. A new spectrum of psychological maladies is being reported all over the world. Therapists are calling it locational vertigo or chronic existential disorientation. People experience moments of profound confusion, unable to remember which of their homes they are in. Is this the kitchen in their Irish cliff house or the one in their original city apartment? They have to look out the window to remember where they chose to be. Some are developing a strange new phobia, a terror of the transport itself, not of arriving somewhere dangerous, but of the silent, instantaneous, non-existent space between here and there. It is a fear of the void, of the flicker of non-existence you must pass through to get anywhere. There is a deep and anxious debate rippling through the fields of psychology and philosophy. Can a stable human consciousness, a coherent sense of self, even exist without a stable, consistent environment to serve as its mirror? Can you truly know who you are if you have no idea, from one moment to the next, where you are? Your friend sends you a message. Where are you? In the old world, the answer was a street name. Now it would require a paragraph. Well, my consciousness is currently occupying my body, which is standing on the salt flats in Utah. But 5 minutes ago, I was in Berlin, and I'm thinking of going to Kyoto for a snack. So it's complicated. You sit down on the cool, crunchy salt. You feel a sudden, overwhelming nostalgia for limitations, for the simple, linear progression of a road trip, for the reassuring passage of time being tied to the crossing of space, for the comfort of knowing with certainty this is my home and having that mean one single unambiguous thing. The infinite freedom to be anywhere is starting to feel like a cage of its own, a dizzying, endless maze of choice. The ultimate open world video game, but your character sheet is getting corrupted. Here in the vast, white, silent emptiness, you make a conscious decision. You decide not to go anywhere, not for a little while. You decide to just stay, to sit, to feel the stillness of the air and the solidness of the ground beneath you. You let your scattered sense of self, which has been stretched thin across the entire surface of the globe today, slowly begin to reassemble here in this one stable spot. The freedom to go anywhere is a dazzling power, but you are just now discovering that it is utterly meaningless without the corresponding, and perhaps more important, freedom to simply stay put. Let your own mind settle now. Feel the weight of your body, the stillness in the room around you. You are here, in this one single peaceful place. Let that be enough. Let that be everything. Because this new world doesn't just challenge your sense of place, it's about to challenge your most personal connections. You sit on the vast white expanse of the salt flats, allowing the profound silence to settle your mind. For the first time all day, you feel anchored. The frantic, globe-spanning journey of your consciousness has paused, and in the stillness, you feel your sense of self begin to solidify again. You are here. This thought, once the most basic fact of existence, now feels like a profound and comforting revelation. And as your own center begins to feel less chaotic, your thoughts naturally turn outwards, not to places, but to people, your friends, your family, your partner, the other anchors in your life. In the world that ended this morning, distance was a powerful and often cruel sculptor of relationships. It dictated who you saw, how often you saw them, and the effort required to maintain your connection. Friendships faded, romances buckled, and family ties were stretched thin by miles and time zones. To bridge a long distance was a grand gesture, a testament to a bond's importance. Buying a plane ticket, spending a day in the car, planning a visit months in advance, these were the currencies of long-distance love. Now, that entire economy of effort has crashed. You think of someone you love who used to be far away, a parent perhaps, or a sibling living in another state, another country. You picture them in their home, in their familiar living room. You think of the worn armchair where your dad always sits, or the ridiculously cluttered bookshelf your sister has had since college. You focus on that feeling of affection, that sense of connection. There is a soft flicker of awareness, a change not of scenery but of context. The dry, salty air is replaced by the familiar, comfortable scent of your loved one's home, the faint smell of old books, or potpourri, or whatever secret combination of things makes their house smell like itself. You are standing in their living room. They look up from their book, and their eyes widen, not with shock anymore. The world has learned to adapt quickly, but with a simple, quiet delight. You're here, they say. It's not a question. It's a statement of a small, everyday miracle. There are no tearful, dramatic hugs at an airport arrival's gate. There is no exhaustion from a long flight. There is just this, the simple, effortless fact of presence. You can now join them for dinner, not just tonight, but every night if you wanted to. The long-distance relationship, a source of so much angst and poetry in the old world, is dead. A couple can maintain their separate careers and homes on opposite sides of the planet while still sharing a glass of wine and talking about their day every single evening, face to face. Grandparents, once relegated to pixelated video calls, can now appear in person to read a bedtime story to their grandchildren, and then be back in their own beds a moment later. The powerful ties of kinship, once frayed by economic migration, can be reestablished in an instant. Sociologists have long understood, through concepts like attachment theory, that consistent physical presence is vital for building and maintaining strong bonds. This new reality is like a global, instantaneous application of that theory, but it's not without its own strange complications. The very effort that distance demanded was in itself a form of communication. It said, "You are worth this journey. You are worth this cost." When presence is as easy as thinking a thought, does it lose its value? This leads to a new and quirky social problem people are calling pop-in anxiety. In a world without doorbells, there is also a world without boundaries. You could be in the middle of a difficult conversation or simply enjoying a quiet moment alone, and a well-meaning relative could materialize in your kitchen to offer you some leftover lasagna. It's a new frontier in social etiquette, leading to the establishment of mental do not disturb hours and a protocol of sending a text message, thinking of popping over in 5, before you actually appear. I need my space, a phrase once used to signal the end of a relationship, is now a literal request that might involve one partner teleporting to a quiet asteroid for an hour to cool down. There is a vibrant debate emerging among relationship counselors and sociologists. Does the elimination of physical obstacles ultimately strengthen our bonds, or does it weaken them by removing the structured effort that so often defined commitment? Are we headed for an age of unprecedented connection, or will we find ourselves in a new kind of loneliness, one born not of absence, but of an overwhelming, constant, and sometimes intrusive presence? You and your loved one talk for what feels like hours, catching up not on the grand events of life, but on the small, everyday details that distance used to steal from you. Later, you sit together in comfortable silence, just sharing the same space, the same air. This is the new reality of love and family. It's less about grand, periodic gestures and more about a steady, consistent stream of shared moments. The question is no longer, when will I see you again? But where should we have coffee tomorrow morning? Your favorite spot in Paris, or mine in Rio? In the great psychological disorientation of this new, placeless world, you realize this is the new anchor. Home is no longer a single, fixed structure. Home is the constellation of people you love, instantly accessible, a network of souls that holds you in place. Let that feeling of connection comfort you. Feel the presence of the people you care about, no matter how far away they might be in space. In this new world, they are only a single thought away. They are your anchor. But what happens when humanity, free from the old struggles, starts looking for new kinds of meaning? You bask in the warm, quiet presence of your loved one, the feeling of being home solidifying into something you carry within you. Your relationships, you realize, are your true north now, the fixed points in a world that has otherwise dissolved into a fluid, shimmering landscape of pure potential. With your feet firmly planted on this new ground of emotional security, you begin to wonder about the bigger picture of the human spirit. What happens to ambition when the old ambitions have been made obsolete? For millennia, the human story was a story of striving to survive, to find food and shelter, striving to acquire resources, to build wealth, striving to connect with each other across vast and difficult distances. Now, in a stunningly short period, those core struggles have been resolved. Basic needs are met by the frictionless flow of goods. Wealth is being redefined away from physical objects, and your loved ones are only a thought away. It's like humanity as a species has collectively shot to the top of Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. The foundational layers, physiological needs, safety, even love and belonging, have been largely satisfied by this new planetary utility. So what's left? Only the peak of the pyramid, esteem, recognition, and that most elusive of concepts, self-actualization. And so, a new chase begins. When you can no longer define yourself by what you own, you must define yourself by what you have experienced. The age of material culture is over. The age of experience culture has begun. Owning a luxury car is pointless when roads are being reclaimed by weeds. Owning a mansion is a quaint eccentricity when people can place their living rooms on cliffsides in Big Sur. Status is no longer broadcast through possessions, but through moments. The new social currency isn't what you have, but what you've done, where you've been, and what unique, fleeting event you were a part of. You decide to dip your toes into this new, glittering stream of human endeavor. You check a feed on your phone, a new kind of social network that doesn't show you pictures of things, but rather coordinates and times for ephemeral events. You see an interesting one. For the next hour only, a famous cellist will be performing Bach's cello suites, alone, in the heart of the Fingal's Cave on the Scottish island of Staffa, a sea cave renowned for its ethereal, cathedral-like acoustics. In the old world, such a concert would be a logistical impossibility. Now it's just Tuesday. You picture the cave, the hexagonal basalt columns, the sound of the cello echoing off the rock and the water. A flicker, and you are there. You find yourself standing on a rocky ledge inside a breathtaking natural hall. The sea surges and sighs at the cave's mouth, and in the center, on a small, stable platform, the cellist plays, her eyes closed. The music she creates is unamplified, raw, and it blends with the sound of the waves to create something achingly beautiful. Around you on the ledges, a few dozen other people stand or sit in silence, all of them having heard about this fleeting concert through the right channels. They are the new cognoscenti. This gives rise to a glamorous and strange new profession, the experience architect, or ephemeralist. These are the ultimate evolution of the curators you pondered earlier. They don't just point you to the best things, they create entire, temporary realities. They might arrange for a troupe of ballet dancers to perform on a frozen lake in Siberia at dawn, or for a world-class chef to host a single-night dinner party in the crater of a dormant volcano. These events are not for profit. Money is becoming an increasingly archaic concept, but for reputation. To be a celebrated experience architect is to be one of the most respected people in the New World. Of course, this new culture has its own anxieties. The fear of missing out, FOMO, has escalated into a global 24/7 condition. At any given moment, thousands of unrepeatable magical things are happening. A flash mob is singing Gregorian chants in the New York Public Library's Rose Main Reading Room. A synchronized kite-flying festival is taking place over the Nazca lines in Peru. A silent, communal meditation is being held at the bottom of the Mariana Trench in shielded submersibles. You cannot be at all of them. The infinite choice that once felt like a cage of placelessness now feels like a frantic, unwinnable race against time and your own limitations. Philosophers and sociologists are, as always, having a field day. They are furiously debating whether this new culture represents humanity's final evolution into a species dedicated to art, beauty, and higher consciousness, or if it is simply a decadent descent into a new, more sophisticated hedonism, a frantic search for ever more intense stimuli to feel something, anything, in a world where struggle has been removed. The ultimate rebellion, the most punk rock thing a person can do now, is to choose to be bored, to stay home and read a book, ignoring the siren call of a million fleeting adventures. You listen as the final notes of the Bach suite echo through the sea cave, mingling with the roar of the ocean before fading into silence. The small crowd doesn't erupt in applause. They just stand for a moment, absorbing the shared temporary magic. Then one by one, they simply vanish, off to the next sensation, the next moment. The cellist herself packs up her instrument and disappears. Soon, you are alone in the cave with just the sound of the sea. The experience is over. It exists now only in the memories of those who were there. You feel both enchanted and strangely empty. You have collected the experience, added it to your mental scrapbook of the day. But what does it all add up to? When life becomes a string of perfect, curated moments, what is the thread that holds them all together? As you stand there, you wonder how you govern a world like this, a population of artists and thrill seekers. You bask in the warm, quiet presence of your loved one, the feeling of being home solidifying into something you carry within you. Your relationships, you realize, are your true north now, the fixed points in a world that has otherwise dissolved into a fluid, shimmering landscape of pure potential. With your feet firmly planted on this new ground of emotional security, you begin to wonder about the bigger picture of the human spirit. What happens to ambition when the old ambitions have been made obsolete? For millennia, the human story was a story of striving to survive, to find food and shelter, striving to acquire resources, to build wealth, striving to connect with each other across vast and difficult distances. Now, in a stunningly short period, those core struggles have been resolved. Basic needs are met by the frictionless flow of goods. Wealth is being redefined away from physical objects, and your loved ones are only a thought away. It's like humanity as a species has collectively shot to the top of Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. The foundational layers, physiological needs, safety, even love and belonging, have been largely satisfied by this new planetary utility. So what's left? Only the peak of the pyramid, esteem, recognition, and that most elusive of concepts, self-actualization. And so, a new chase begins. When you can no longer define yourself by what you own, you must define yourself by what you have experienced. The age of material culture is over. The age of experience culture has begun. Owning a luxury car is pointless when roads are being reclaimed by weeds. Owning a mansion is a quaint eccentricity when people can place their living rooms on cliffsides in Big Sur. Status is no longer broadcast through possessions, but through moments. The new social currency isn't what you have, but what you've done, where you've been, and what unique, fleeting event you were a part of. You decide to dip your toes into this new, glittering stream of human endeavor. You check a feed on your phone, a new kind of social network that doesn't show you pictures of things, but rather coordinates and times for ephemeral events. You see an interesting one. For the next hour only, a famous cellist will be performing Bach's cello suites, alone in the heart of the Fingal's Cave on the Scottish island of Staffa, a sea cave renowned for its ethereal, cathedral-like acoustics. In the old world, such a concert would be a logistical impossibility. Now it's just Tuesday. You picture the cave, the hexagonal basalt columns, the sound of the cello echoing off the rock and the water. A flicker, and you are there. You find yourself standing on a rocky ledge inside a breathtaking natural hall. The sea surges and sighs at the cave's mouth, and in the center, on a small, stable platform, the cellist plays, her eyes closed. The music she creates is unamplified, raw, and it blends with the sound of the waves to create something achingly beautiful. Around you on the ledges, a few dozen other people stand or sit in silence, all of them having heard about this fleeting concert through the right channels. They are the new cognoscenti. This gives rise to a glamorous and strange new profession, the experience architect or ephemeralist. These are the ultimate evolution of the curators you pondered earlier. They don't just point you to the best things, they create entire temporary realities. They might arrange for a troupe of ballet dancers to perform on a frozen lake in Siberia at dawn, or for a world-class chef to host a single-night dinner party in the crater of a dormant volcano. These events are not for profit. Money is becoming an increasingly archaic concept, but for reputation. To be a celebrated experience architect is to be one of the most respected people in the New World. Of course, this new culture has its own anxieties. The fear of missing out, FOMO, has escalated into a global 24/7 condition. At any given moment, thousands of unrepeatable magical things are happening. A flash mob is singing Gregorian chants in the New York Public Library's Rose Main Reading Room. A synchronized kite-flying festival is taking place over the Nazca lines in Peru. A silent, communal meditation is being held at the bottom of the Mariana Trench in shielded submersibles. You cannot be at all of them. The infinite choice that once felt like a cage of placelessness now feels like a frantic, unwinnable race against time and your own limitations. Philosophers and sociologists are, as always, having a field day. They are furiously debating whether this new culture represents humanity's final evolution into a species dedicated to art, beauty, and higher consciousness, or if it is simply a decadent descent into a new, more sophisticated hedonism, a frantic search for ever more intense stimuli to feel something, anything, in a world where struggle has been removed. The ultimate rebellion, the most punk rock thing a person can do now, is to choose to be bored, to stay home and read a book, ignoring the siren call of a million fleeting adventures. You listen as the final notes of the Bach suite echo through the sea cave, mingling with the roar of the ocean before fading into silence. The small crowd doesn't erupt in applause. They just stand for a moment, absorbing the shared temporary magic. Then, one by one, they simply vanish, off to the next sensation, the next moment. The cellist herself packs up her instrument and disappears. Soon, you are alone in the cave, with just the sound of the sea. The experience is over. It exists now only in the memories of those who were there. You feel both enchanted and strangely empty. You have collected the experience, added it to your mental scrapbook of the day. But what does it all add up to? When life becomes a string of perfect, curated moments, what is the thread that holds them all together? As you stand there, you wonder how you govern a world like this, a population of artists and thrill seekers. You leave the hollow, magnificent shell of the United Nations headquarters, stepping out into the New York air. The grand, top-down systems of the old world are gone, replaced by a messy, chaotic, but strangely functional self-organization. It makes you wonder about the ultimate top-down system, the one that governs all of this, the transport itself. Is it a perfect, flawless piece of engineering, a divine gift? Or is it just a piece of technology like any other, full of quirks, bugs, and strange, unexplained side effects? You decide to find the people who live on the fringes of this question, the ones who aren't just using the system, but are actively trying to pick its locks and look under its hood. They don't have offices or meeting halls. They gather in obscure forums and encrypted chat rooms in the corners of the global network. You find your way into one of them, a simple, text-based site called the Glitch Report. The page is a running list of weird phenomena, fringe theories, and user-submitted bug reports on the nature of reality itself. It's the planet's weirdest and most important IT support thread. You start to read, and it's like peering into the source code of your new existence. The first major topic of debate is the one that's been bothering physicists from the very first moment, the law of conservation of momentum. In the old world, the Earth's surface at the equator spins at over 1,000 miles per hour, while at the poles, it is effectively still. So if you teleport from a cafe in Quito, Ecuador, to a research station at the South Pole, you should, by all laws of physics, arrive as a supersonic human cannonball, instantly vaporizing on impact. But you don't. You arrive gently, perfectly still. This single, impossible fact is the central mystery. The system, whatever it is, gracefully handles the astronomical calculations required to cancel out relative velocity. But how? This is where the debate rages. Physicists are locked in a permanent, planet-wide argument about the fundamental nature of the transport. Mainstream theories propose a network of controllable, microscopic wormholes, or a manipulation of space-time via negative mass. But the fringe theories you find here are far stranger. A popular and deeply unsettling one suggests that reality is a simulation, and this new ability is simply a patch, a feature rolled out by the programmers. The reason momentum isn't a problem is that it's just a variable in the code that can be rewritten at will. The conspiracy theorists of the old world have been put out of business by a reality that is far weirder than anything they could have imagined. Then there are the glitches themselves, the weird bugs people have discovered. You remember your own experience with the missing slipper and the woman who landed in the koi pond. The forum has an entire section dedicated to this, which they call the partial manifest anomaly. It seems the system has the most trouble with non-essential, loosely attached items. Socks are the most common casualty. It's become a running joke that no one has arrived anywhere with a matching pair of socks since the change. It's a minor, comical bug, but it implies the system has a hierarchy of importance, that it distinguishes between a living being and their accessories. Another reported glitch is the sensory echo. Users describe arriving at a new location, but for a second or two, they can still smell the scent of the place they just left, or hear a phantom echo of the music that was playing. It's as if their personal reality cache hasn't been fully cleared. A more disturbing variant is the mirror lag, an extremely rare but terrifying bug where a user reports their reflection moving a fraction of a second behind them, as if it's struggling to catch up. This has given rise to a new type of daredevil, the glitch hunter. These are people who actively try to break the system, They test the edges. They teleport to the most difficult locations imaginable, the heart of a hurricane, the lip of an active volcano, the exact center of a mid-air fireworks display. They are the quality assurance testers for the fabric of space-time. Their findings are both trivial and profound. They've discovered, for example, that it seems impossible to teleport into the past, which has saved history from becoming a chaotic mess of time tourists. They've also learned that aiming for the sun is, unsurprisingly, a one-way trip. The ultimate question these glitch hunters and fringe physicists are asking is whether the system is a natural phenomenon or an artificial one. If it's artificial, who built it, and can they turn it off? This fear is what drives the research into the anchor rooms you learned about earlier. They are a desperate attempt to create a space that is offline from the system, a safe place to hide if the great programmer ever decides to push a less benevolent update. You scroll through the forums for what feels like hours, your mind sinking into a strange, sleepy state of metaphysical dread and wonder. The world is not just a social and political puzzle, it's a technical one. It might be a beautiful, elegant piece of code, but it still has bugs. As you finally switch off your phone, you are left with the most unsettling thought of all. If reality is a program, what happens when it finally crashes? Let that strange thought hover in your mind as you drift deeper. The weirdness of the universe is, in its own way, a comforting blanket. It means there are still mysteries left to solve, and tomorrow you will have a front row seat to the most beautiful mystery of all. You switch off your phone, the screen going dark. The strange theories from the Glitch Hunter forum buzz in your mind like faint, cosmic static. The idea of reality being a buggy beta test is a profoundly unsettling one, a rabbit hole of existential dread that is far too deep for this time of night. After a day of such overwhelming newness, new economies, new societies, new psychologies, your mind craves something simple, something ancient and real and undeniably true. You need to see a sunset. But the thought that follows is a product of your new reality. Why see just one? The sun is always setting somewhere. The line between day and night, the terminator, is a continuous moving wave washing across the face of the planet. In the old world, you were stuck in one place, a stationary observer of its passing. But you are no longer stationary. A new sport, a new forms of meditation has emerged in the last few hours. People call it chasing the twilight. You decide to try it. You think of a place renowned for its sunsets, a cliché of beauty. The cliffs of Oya on the Greek island of Santorini. A flicker of reality, and you are there. You're standing high on a cliff, looking out over the deep blue caldera. The air is warm and smells of salt and sun-baked stone. The famous whitewashed buildings glow, catching the last rays of the setting sun. Below you, the sun itself is a perfect, fiery orb, kissing the surface of the Aegean Sea. It's breathtaking. As the final sliver of light disappears, the sky ignites in shades of deep orange, purple, and pink. In the old world, this would be the end. A moment of beauty, now past. But you see other people around you, who had been watching in silence, begin to vanish. They aren't going home. They are following the sun. You decide to join them. You close your eyes and think of a place a few hundred miles to the west, where the sun has not yet set. A beach on the coast of Italy. A quiet substitution, and you are there again. Your feet are on the sand, and there it is. The same sun, just a little lower in the sky now, painting the clouds in fresh pastels. You watch it set for a second time. It's no less beautiful, no less profound. This is the ultimate expression of the experience culture, but it feels different. It's not about collecting a fleeting man-made event, but about stretching a single natural moment of beauty across time and space. You do it again. You appear on a high cliff in Portugal, the wind whipping at your jacket, and watch the sun sink into the vast, churning Atlantic. Then again, on a tranquil beach in the Azores, the light now soft and gentle, and again, on the vibrant coast of Brazil, where the final glow is shared with people dancing on the sand. With each sunset, you reflect on the journey of your day. You remember the silence of the greening freeways and the hope you felt for the healing planet. You think of the global potluck on the beach, the end of scarcity, the dissolution of borders, and the quiet joy of seeing a loved one without obstacle. You recall the dizzying placelessness on the salt flats and the comfort you found not in a place, but in a person. The world is a chaotic, strange, and overwhelming place now, but as you watch the sun set for the 5th time, you feel a sense of profound peace washing over you. Humanity has been given a gift that is both a key and a puzzle, and it is just beginning to figure it out. Psychologists say our perception of time is elastic, stretching and shrinking based on the density of our experiences. By that measure, you have lived an entire lifetime since you woke up this morning. Philosophers are now asking the final question of this new era. With all the old struggles and limitations removed, what is the fundamental nature of humanity? Is it the quiet kindness that ended hunger? The boundless creativity that sparked the experience culture? Or is it a gentle, searching confusion, a species trying to find its footing in a universe that has become overnight infinitely large and infinitesimally small? Your final jump takes you to a quiet, secluded cove in Hawaii. The sun is a deep, some molten red. The air is fragrant with flowers, and the only sound is the gentle lapping of the waves. This is your last sunset of the night. You've seen enough. You have chased the light across the world, and now you are ready for the dark. You are ready for rest. The colors in the sky begin to soften now. The fiery oranges and brilliant pinks are fading into the gentler, deeper blues of twilight. The world is exhaling, letting go of the day, and you can let go too. There are no more places to visit tonight, no more wonders to see, no more questions to ponder. All the infinite possibilities of the world will wait for you. They will be there tomorrow. The floating concerts, the green highways, the friends on distant continents, they will all be there. But for now, your journey is over. Your only destination is a deep and peaceful sleep. Feel the stillness you discovered on the salt flats settle into your own heart. Feel the connection to your loved ones as a warm, secure blanket. The business of the world can fade away. The hum of its endless potential can soften to a gentle whisper, and then to silence. There is nothing left to do but rest. Let your mind become as quiet and as empty as that vast moonlit runway. Let your thoughts drift away like the last clouds of a perfect sunset. Just the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, in and out, in and out. The adventure is over. It is time to sleep. It is time to dream.